You stare at the blinking cursor again. Now, you promised yourself today would be the day that you send an email, but now you're in the moment and you can't think of what to say. Does that sound familiar? Everybody's afraid of sounding boring or too salesy, so they freeze up and they send nothing. But what if I told you that the best emails, they don't come from any kind of 10x hacks or guru thought leadership, deep philosophical content. They actually come from the most remarkable part of your day. I've been sending this exact kind of email for over 3 years now, and it's generated hundreds of thousands of dollars for me and my business and my clients. I used to think for my email strategy to work, I had to be the smartest marketer in the room. I wanted people to open up their email inbox and be totally blown away by my deep marketing insights and email prowess. But the truth is, I'm not that deep. I'm not that philosophical. I don't have that many ideas just like that. That's why when I stumbled on this method a few years ago, I was really excited to see that it worked, that I could take a simple story from my day and share it in an email, and people started to really resonate with it, which increased my open rates, my click-through rates, and even the amount of people that were replying back to my own emails. And you're probably wondering at this point, how can a normal day lead to an extraordinary email? Here's step one. Think about the last 24 hours and what was the most remarkable thing that happened in your day? Did something make you laugh? Did something make you do that kind of nose laugh where you exhale quickly through your nose? Did something make you cringe or wince or kind of close your eyes? If so, any of those symptoms might be a great case for an email story that you could tell. Maybe somebody misspelled your name on the coffee cup at Starbucks. Maybe you put on that pair of jeans from last fall and you found a $20 bill inside. Maybe you were driving to the gym and you hit a pothole right when you got into the parking lot. Pick that one moment and just write a couple of sentences describing what happened. Now, with any good storytelling structure, you need a couple of things. You need place, where were you? Where did the thing take place? Who were you with? Were you by yourself? Were you in public? Were you with a small group of friends? Were you with your family? And then what happened? This is really simple story structure. Where were you? Who were you with, if anybody? And what happened? Just write a couple of sentences about that incident. And keep it really simple. Just use plain normal language like you're telling a story to a friend. One of my favorite marketing sayings is that emails from your mom have a 100% open rate. And I think we can really clutter up the inbox by trying to sound like a really fancy marketer with a bunch of pictures and HTML headers and logos, all that stuff. That does not feel like a friendly email. That feels like something that a marketing company is trying to send you to take action. So just use plain normal language and tell your story. The next part of this process is to think of the lesson that you learned as a result of that story. And I'll tell you more about that a little bit later in the video. But a great email just relies on a simple story about the most remarkable part of your day. And remember, if it made you smile, scowl, or smirk, it might work. Then, and this part is really key, after you tell the story and share the lesson you learned on behalf of your reader, send the email. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for something epic to happen. Just tell the story and send the email. These stories may not seem very extraordinary, and that's totally fine. A thing for you to remember is I want you to become a character in the inbox of your reader. I want them to see your name come up when they're checking their email, which is probably first thing in the morning and 800 times that day, and see your name come across and think, I wonder what they're up to today. What's going on in their life? That's what I mean when I say become a character in their inbox. Here's a belief shift for you. Sharing your life builds trust in a way that generic content never could. You already have all the content that you need to send a great email, and it's hiding in your normal, ordinary life. Let's talk about the lesson next. How do you take that story that you just shared and identify a core lesson that would benefit your reader? It's really simple, and if you're new here, this is the type of content I share on this channel. If you want to learn how to make email marketing work for you so you build a business that you're really excited about, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss a video. All right, so now you found an epic story, and I'll give you an example here in a minute. So once you found that story idea, here's how to extract the lesson. I'll tell you a story that happened to me recently. After some road trips and some flights and a lot of time sitting on airplanes and sitting in a passenger vehicle while traveling all over the world to see some family around the holidays, my body was really in rough shape. And what was happening is my lower left leg and the calf was getting kind of tingly, and I got kind of concerned. And so I booked a trip to the chiropractor to go see what was going on. Went into the chiropractor and said, Doc, my leg hurts. I got a little bit of tingling in the left calf. And I assumed something was wrong with my leg, some kind of blood circulation issue or something like that. And it turns out that after a few seconds of talking to the doctor and a couple of stretches, he identified that the pain that was going on in my lower leg was actually coming from something in my hips. Gave me a couple of stretches, a couple of quick adjustments, and within minutes, I felt better and I was on my way. So that was the story. And in my world, I help people grow their email list, ideally automatically with Facebook ads, among other ways, and then they make offers to their email list. And so all I did was connect the story of seeing a pain in the lower part of my body and realizing it was actually coming from a bit upstream, so to speak. And that's sometimes where the problems stem in your business as well. What might look like an offer problem might be an audience building problem instead. And so let's get that part sorted out. That's a simple example of a recent story that really happened in my normal everyday life where I wove in some additional pieces, like I was going to see family on the holidays and I had been flying somewhere and I'd also been a passenger in a vehicle for a long time. And I can weave in those little personal moments about my life and about what I was doing and then share the lesson that I learned through that experience. So I just took that personal moment and turned it into a lesson that my audience could apply to their life while staying connected and giving them some insight into my world and being a character in their inbox. This type of email writing, it's not about being clever. It's about helping the world make progress through the lens that you're viewing everything through. Everyday life provides us with these little fun metaphors and stories. You just have to know where to look and have your antenna up and be on the hunt for your next great story. You now know the method, finding a simple story and sharing a lesson. And maybe you're wondering, well, why don't more people do this? It sounds so simple. I think there's 3 big reasons that people don't do this. They don't want to sound salesy. They don't want to feel like they're bothering their audience. And also they think that their life is not that interesting. And the truth is, these are just belief blocks. They're not reality. Your audience wants to connect with you and they want something human, not something manufactured. Think about the last email you got from the local pizza shop in your neighborhood. They probably blasted you with some 2 can dine for $9.99, some kind of deal with lots of pictures and bonuses and coupons and graphics and color and all that stuff. That's what your competitors' emails can feel like in the newsfeed. I don't want you to think that you have to email like that. We don't want to come across as some big business or corporation. We're actually trying to make a real human connection via our stories in the inbox. So remember this. Being normal in an overly AI-generated world is your superpower. It's not some kind of stumbling block. And your consistency and your stories are going to make you stand out. So now we know how to do it once, but maybe you're wondering, how do I do this consistently? I've done this every day now for years and years and years, and I'm never going to stop. Every day I do what I just shared with you. I take a simple story and I share the lesson and I send it out to my inbox. So what's the secret to staying consistent? The first tip is don't overthink it. If anything happened in your day in the last 24 hours that made you smile or smirk, it's going to work. Just think about, what did you find funny? What did you find amusing? What did you find was in good fortune? What did you find was unfortunate? What happened? That's a great idea for a story. Let me tell you about one of the most boring emails that I ever sent. So I was sitting on my recliner upstairs. I work in the basement. And I was watching TV and my middle kid, Luke, was in the room with me. And I kind of sighed. I was sitting at my laptop. I couldn't think of anything to write for that daily email. It was on a weekend. It was getting later in the day. And I wanted to keep my streak going, but I couldn't think of anything to send that day. And Luke said, "Dad, what's wrong?" And I said, "I can't think of any idea to send for my email today." And Luke was, watching TV, not really paying attention and not even really looking at me, and just said, "Well, today's email should be about how you don't feel like sending an email." And I thought, "Luke, you're brilliant. That's going to be what today's email is about." And so that was one of the emails that I sent. Just, "Hey, I got to be honest with you. Didn't really feel like doing this today, but got to be consistent, telling these stories, and this is a profitable habit." And that's what I sent. An email about how I didn't even feel like sending an email that day. And that was one of the most replies I've ever gotten from an email in years of doing this practice. So you can see it doesn't take something extraordinary for people to find some meaning and some value in what you choose to share, as long as you're consistent and you keep showing up. And if you're thinking, I still can't think of what types of stories I want to tell, I've listed out hundreds of my favorite story topics from all of the thousands of emails I've sent over the years, and you can get a copy of the checklist in the description below. So tell that story, send that takeaway, and fire off that email. It doesn't have to be big or flashy or fancy. It just needs to be you. I believe that your stories matter. Even the simple ones, even the ones that you think are boring, even the ones that seem really mundane, especially in an AI-generated world where everything is just this automatic, nonstop feed of computer-generated content. Your stories are what make you stand out. I can't ask ChatGPT to tell me a story of what the gravel felt like beneath my right knee when I knelt down in my navy blue cargo pants to propose to my girlfriend and ask her to become my wife. That's my story. I can only tell you the story of what it felt like to hold my oldest son when he was born and there in the hospital, and what it felt like to feel the weight of his little body in my hands. AI can't write that story. That story's mine. Your stories are unique to you. They can't be faked, and they can't be replicated by AI, no matter how good it gets. And if you ever wondered, Are you emailing your list too much or not enough? Then just tap the button on the screen right now and watch the next video.